Hey there and welcome to the channel. You're watching The Light in My Library. So today I thought I'd do a quick little video about what books to recommend to your non-Brandon Sanderson fans to get them to start reading the master himself. So we'll get right into it. My first recommendation to non-Brandon Sanderson readers is going to be Mistborn. This is undoubtedly the best place to start Brandon Sanderson. Just for your average reader, and your average, not necessarily your average fantasy fan, we'll get to that recommendation later, but for your average book reader, I think this is probably the best book to start them off with. It has intrigue, it has court politics, it has action, adventure, mystery, everything that you could want from a good, thrilling read with a lot of depth. And so this is my first recommendation to non-Brandon Sanderson readers. So the next recommendation is The Emperor's Soul, which is a lot shorter. And a lot of people pass this up as a good recommendation to non-Brandon Sanderson readers, but they really shouldn't. It is short, simple, sweet. This is what I would recommend to a non-reader because of the length, honestly, above anything else. It really puts itself out there, and it is one of his best written works ever. In my opinion, it is just very solid from start to finish. This is the only book of his which has received a Hugo so far. He definitely deserves more, but so far this is the only one that's gotten one. The next one that I'm going to go with is Legion. I have here the anthology edition. However, I believe that the single editions are still available on his website. Not this one. It has a different cover. But you can still pick them up separately, I believe. And so I do highly recommend Legion. It is probably what I would recommend to somebody who reads a lot of action thrillers, a lot of mystery novels, a lot of science fiction. Yeah, I would recommend this to a heavy reader, but somebody who doesn't necessarily like fantasy, as something to kind of get them into the writer. It is a little bit underrated, in my opinion, among his fan base, and I would definitely push this to non-Brandon Sanderson readers. Next, we're going to go with Warbreaker. Warbreaker is what I would recommend to an artist. And I actually have successfully recommended this book to an artist in my life, and they very much appreciated it. I think they read it 3 times straight through. It is his most colorful, pun intended, book, but it also just has a certain quality to it. There's a sort of heart to Warbreaker that I don't think is quite found in any of his other books. There's a special quality to it. And I would recommend this and have recommended it successfully to multiple people. It is one of the best places to start reading Brandon Sanderson. It showcases a lot of his best writing, in my opinion. Now we're going to go to Skyward. Skyward is what I would recommend to anybody who typically reads a little bit younger. Obviously, it's YA. Whether they are younger or they just prefer that genre. Nothing wrong with the genre, obviously, but this is what I would recommend to somebody who reads a lot of Percy Jackson, Rick Riordan, who reads Brandon Mole or anything like that. I would definitely recommend this to them. A lot of the younger people in your life, in my life, I would recommend Skyward. Also, anybody who has ever been in any sort of combat situation, I would highly recommend this to them as well, as just a very effective look at the actual act of grief. There's another book later on that we'll get to that deals a lot more with the PTSD, but this book deals a lot more with the active combat experience that I think a lot of people would really appreciate. Also, I would recommend this to people who only will read science fiction, who are not interested in fantasy. I would recommend this book to them. So, there you go. And next we have The Way of Kings. This is what I would recommend to your true dedicated fantasy fans, to your King Killer readers, to your Game of Thrones readers, to the Wheel of Time fan base, although if anybody in the Wheel of Time fan base has not already read all of Brandon Sanderson, I would be shocked. However, anybody who's a real dedicated fantasy reader, anybody who is very active in the genre, this is going to be the book for them. This is his best writing ever in any book ever, in my opinion. I strongly believe this to be his best book. So this is the one that I would recommend. I do think that a lot of fans are a little bit too gung-ho to recommend this book to non-fantasy fans, non-Brandon fans. And I can understand why. This is the book that you want to talk to people about. And there are plenty of successful stories of people recommending this book. But it's a lot to bite off, and you got to remember that when you're trying to get people to read it. Unless you think that they are going to commit to it, you really got to be careful about recommending this book, because it's a lot. It's a big boy. It's a big, thick boy. And it will turn off a lot of readers. Brandon talks a lot about how this book is written in such a way that it's intended to scare off readers. It has 5 prologues, and it is done that way on purpose to get people to not read it unless they want to commit to the 1,000-page book. So, do recommend it, for sure, but know who you're recommending it to. Now we have the book that I've been skipping, and it is Elantris. It's the oldie but goodie. This is the book I got my wife to read first, actually, and it is one of his best books, in my opinion. It is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for, as well. It is the foundation of his career, and it is just a solid, contained fantasy book that it does have issues. It has issues around its female character not being the best written of female characters for Brandon Sanderson. It also has issues around some of the disability representation, but those are both acknowledged by Brandon and done better in other places by Brandon. But it's good. It's a charming little read. I shouldn't say little. I mean, it's still, 600 pages? 600 pages. But it is a charming read, and it is a solid fantasy book. And I have had a lot of success in recommending this book to people. As much success, I would say, as I've had with Warbreaker. So, don't knock it. It may not hold up as well in retrospect to his other books, but it is a solid read and something that people do engage with and do enjoy. And then we have a bonus book. A rather unpopular book in Brandon Sanderson circles, but it really should not be overlooked. If you have any people 12 and under in your life, Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians is a solid book to recommend. This is actually the first book I ever read by Brandon Sanderson, and I read it when I was in the age demographic. But it is funny, it is witty, it is exciting, it is fast-paced, it is random and off the wall, and it is a good book to recommend to any younger person in your life. I will stand by this. This is an underappreciated book by Brandon Sanderson. It's an underappreciated series, and all of that, I agree with him, it can be attributed to Scholastic's handling of the initial print. However, recommend it. Recommend it. It is a good book. It is funny. In addition to that, it's finally getting its last book this year. So that's something to look forward to. If you haven't read this one yourself yet, read it. If you enjoy Lightsong's humor in Warbreaker, if you enjoy Wit's humor in the Stormlit Archive, you will enjoy the humor in this book. And you should read it. It is underappreciated among Brandon Sanderson fans. It is underappreciated by its age demographic, and it definitely should be read. So there you go. Those are my Brandon Sanderson recommendations for non-Brandon Sanderson readers. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you would please like and subscribe if you've not already. Please leave a comment down below, and check out my Twitter and Instagram and my Twitch. You can find links to those in my bio, and I hope you guys have a good one.